Hi, I'm Ashley, and you are listening and watching Confidence in Coffee. What if I was to tell you that you can find confidence despite any of your circumstances, good or bad? I'm going to help you navigate the waters of womanhood, whatever season that is in, whether it's marriage, singleness, or you're drowning in children. I'm going to help you find confidence and hope through Christ. I'm going to leave you with plenty of encouragement and practical tips to overcome those limiting beliefs so you can live a life well. Plus, you know we're going to find a few laughs along the way. So grab your favorite cup of coffee and join me as we chat confidence in coffee.
Hey, you guys, I'm here with my new friend Peter, and I am so excited to have him on Confidence in Coffee. We are going to have such an impactful conversation about what this man has been through, what he's doing, and you guys get to be a part of that. Hopefully towards the end. But I wanna prepare you. So wherever you are, you may need tissues. So grab those. Just open your hearts to what we're going to share today. You know, on my podcast, Peter, you may not know this, but I'm very vulnerable. I believe vulnerability is a superpower, and I love to just keep things transparent and real and just let God move. And so, just forewarning, I hope my audience knows he's the founder of Now I Am Known, and it is an organization that supplies resources to support vulnerable children. Originally from Uganda. Did I say that right? Uganda.
Yes.
My husband got on to me last night because I was sharing your story. He's like, you better say that right. Peter ran away from an abusive home at the age of 10. You guys, his story is phenomenal. We're going to talk about it. And he lived as a street kid for nearly 5 years. Today, Peter is a single dad to countless foster children and his adopted son, Anthony. For the past 20 years, Peter has worked as a child advocate within the US and globally to promote wellness and child development. He believes every child deserves to be seen and heard and known. Peter has appeared in international media outlets everywhere and is a passionate speaker, and he resides in North Carolina. I'm from the Outer Banks, so I was kind of excited about that. I'm on
Yeah.
the East Coast, yeah, and I just recently moved last year to Virginia. But yeah, you are super close, friend.
Yes, your neighbor.
Yes. So, Peter, I am so excited to be here and talk about your new book, which is the same name as your foundation and just everything. I mean, it's powerful. Now I am known. And how phenomenal, how strong is that? And you know, this is a Christian podcast. And so, you know, from me who has come from a childhood of trauma, all I wanted was to be known.
Mhm.
And you know that fostering children and from your child, I mean, that's what we want. I mean, it's really rooted in that and love. And so, would you talk to me a little bit just more about your story and just what resonated? I mean, you're a survivor, man. You are a survivor. And I love how you know, I want to be careful with that because you do talk about, you know, there like, and I believe that too, but there's a survival season, but like then there's like a thriving season, right? Like there's two different things. And so would you talk to us a little bit about being from your childhood and just being a survivor and what that was like?
Well, absolutely, yes. And I would love to share with your, audience who are listening. And thank you, Ashley. And that's what we love about what you do. You're giving me an opportunity to share my journey. You're making others known. That's the whole idea. As we share stories, as we are vulnerable to what God has brought us through, the more others get to see themselves and they can change or can seek the same thing like I did. For me, I grew up so poor that I didn't know I didn't know you can dream like this next week. I grew up in a place where life was miserable in every shape, form. I did not have a name until when I was 2 years old. Why? Because for every 100 children were born in my village, 60 would die before the age of 2. So most moms didn't really know they will have, if you, I hear those days, if someone was pregnant and you say, hey, when are you due? They will say, no, I'm not pregnant because they couldn't count on that pregnancy.
Mm.
And so that was my mom. At the age of 2, finally I made it, and she named me Habia Mana, which means a gift given to us by God. That's what my name means. But also she's, surviving through the village of where there was no food. We never had one food a day. We would have one food every other day. We could never have beans and potatoes. We could only have one. And then the next day we have, beans. So that is the world where I came from, where I had to go fetch water at the age of 3. You go 2 miles away to get water to drink. I had to help my family to grow crops because it was the only way we can provide food. So for me, hardship began as soon as I could begin to understand what meant to live. So as a kid, I had to help, and I'm the oldest, so that meant I had to be involved in everything possible. I had to be the babysitter. By the age of 5, I could take care of my siblings. At the age of 6, I could make a meal if there was a meal to make for my sibling. So for me, there wasn't any glimpse of hope. That's all I knew, just poverty. But poverty, you survive day by day. Then at the age of 4, not only was I struggling with poverty, but then I realized that my father was different. He was abusive in every shape, form you could imagine. And I think the hardest part for me was to see the abuse that came to me came towards my mom as well. So the one parent that can protect me wasn't able to, because she got the same. And
Mm.
actually, here's the hardest part too. Most times she got the beating because she was trying to protect us, or she was trying to advocate for us. She would go to my dad and say, hey, the kids haven't eaten for 2 days. Is there a way you could find food? Or she got beatings for that. We didn't have clothes. If our clothes ran out and they were all in tatters, and she said, hey, the kids are naked. Is there a way you could buy something? She got beaten for that. So most of the time, I think for me was the hard part to see that my needs were putting my mother in danger, you know?
And you probably blamed yourself
Of
a
course.
lot. I mean, I can't, none of us can, a lot of us cannot fathom, being in that situation. And it is what they say, right? Like it's first world problems and stuff. And so I I can't imagine what you must have felt during that time.
Right. And so are most of our foster kids. I think sometimes we see them having behaviors and we wonder why. But most time they're really dealing with guilt. When you go to school and your teacher finds out something is happening, they call the police. Well, who do you blame? Yourself, because you got caught or they
Right.
found you. And that was me as well, that I really felt bad for my mom. That really was the beginning of misery. You have misery at home, but also you have misery of poverty around you. So there was no glimpse of hope. Like, it wasn't like, man, I wish tomorrow comes. No, I never wanted to see tomorrow, because the abuse today were coming the next day. So I look forward to that. And that was my survival way of looking at life. I have today, and that's all I can count. And as we grow older, we understand abuse in different ways. So at age of 10, I thought, look, I know my father is going to kill me, but why give him the joy of doing so?
Mm.
I've never been 20 miles away from my village. I just ran to the bus station and I said, which of these buses goes the farthest? And I jumped on that bus and I ran away. And running away wasn't like I was looking for hope. For me, I would better die in the hands of someone else than my own father. But also, I didn't want to give him the joy to bury me. So if I can run as far as I can, he will never even get to see my dead body. So as a 10-year-old, that was my thinking. I hate him so much that give him the joy to bury me would be a positive thing in some way. Like, no. And I ran away and I ended up in Kampala, and I became a street kid at the age of 10.
Gosh, I read some of your story about even getting on the bus, how the bus driver thought that you belonged to this woman. She was, no, that's not my kid. How nobody was like, hey, there's this young kid with all this money running away. Did you even know? When I read your book, it was like your mind is, from what I interpreted, as I'm getting away from where I was. I'm
Correct.
I'm escaping that, like, death, right? And oh my gosh, listen, Peter, the fact you still worried about your mother too.
Yes, because she's the one parent that cared for me, but I wasn't there to protect her. That I knew the abuse was gonna come towards her. That I knew she's gonna get the heat for me running away. But I knew at 10 there was nothing I can do. I couldn't protect my siblings or her. Yes, I was worried of what she was going through. But at the same time, for me, I felt like, okay, at least I don't have to hear the words I had from my dad every day. Peter, you garbage. Peter, you never amount to anything. Peter, I wish you were never born so I don't have to feed you. at least I didn't have to hear those, or I didn't get the beatings because I did not know nothing at all. So for me,
Yeah.
running away was the only option that I had. But again, I wasn't looking for a better place to be. I was looking for death, but in the hands of others, not my father.
I don't think any of us can imagine that. So you had no hope.
No, no hope, no, zero hope. And when I arrived in Kampala too, they spoke a different language. I had never been there. So I had never been 20 miles away. I went 500 kilometers away. So you can imagine just even the fear of being in a place I had never been before. They spoke a different language. At 10 years old, I had no glimpse there was an hour for me. So I got on the bus and quickly I realized that there were other street kids, and one of them looked at me and said, "Hey, do you want to join us?" And that's how I became family. That's what I became. And life was harder on the streets than at home. The abuse was worse because you're abused by every human being that came across. But also, you're outside on the streets. You're living in the garbage. All the kids were using you in every way, shape, form that you can imagine. So it was hard 100 times, but it was different. These were strangers. They
Yeah.
weren't my family.
Yeah, and I read that in your book that that was your family. They came to you and they showed you how to, and stop me if there's something that you're not comfortable talking about. Because as a writer, I know it's even that is challenging, but to talk about it, is also challenging. But I read about how they showed you never stole a day in your life.
Mhm.
And when you were on the streets, they were teaching you how to ask and how to, how to how to get food and stuff. And then they told you like how to steal. And you explained a little bit about the first time you did it. But in that country, if it was shame on your family if you were a thief. You didn't even steal from your neighbor. And so in that, just having that, even that moral high ground, even in that situation, I can't even begin to imagine the things that you experienced. The thing I couldn't get out of my head, Peter, is how much you saw death at your age on the street
Mhm.
with children.
Right.
I I can't even begin to fathom as I read that. Like, I don't even want to ask you how was that? That experience must have been horrible.
Correct. But
You
you've
were
lost
living for food all the
absolutely. But
time.
you've lost your hope in humanity and yourself. That there's nothing else left for you to see dignity or to see. There was no reason for me to say, why should death not take me? To me, most of the time it was the wish. Like, I wish I didn't have to see tomorrow. That was my prayer. The only
Ah, I
prayer
remember.
I knew how.
Yeah,
You
I
know, I
get that.
I wish I didn't see tomorrow. So for us, yes, the kids who died on the streets were mainly because they ate something that was poisonous and they died. But I was eating the same thing. Or, they slept under the bus and somehow the bus left without checking and they lost their lives. But that was my place where I slept. So it wasn't like I was just different than these kids who were losing their lives. I was doing the same. In some way I was waiting for my day. And I think as Africans we are not afraid of death. We know it's part of our lives. And because we lose lives so early, we've kind of accepted in that sense. So for me, seeing my friends, yes, it was sad to do. It was sad to see your fellow friend you hang out with lose their lives for sure. But at the same time, knowing that your time was coming anytime. I live here
Yeah.
in I live here in the United States and see people, they're 30, they're saving when they get 70. I'm like, but who gave you the guarantee that you make it to 70 years old? Because
Yeah.
I came from a world where life was today. I'm gonna eat today. I'm gonna be kind today. I'm gonna do something today. I'm gonna welcome and embrace someone today because I have only today. It's only day I can count on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I read that there was like you had no hope in humanity. You had come to accept that, and there was like a moment where there was this woman who was nice to you, and you thought, well, maybe because she's nice to me and she's feeding me, but she only had a terrible motive for you. And took advantage of you. And I just can't begin to imagine that. And you were on the streets for 5 years. So tell us like how you got from that to where you are now, because I would love for you to talk about the person that helped you and made an impact in your life.
Correct. So I think as a street kid, people were so mean and hostile to us. But kindness, I could not accept kindness because I knew kindness was going to come the next minute. As you said, if a lady gave you something to eat, but you knew she's going to abuse you sexually a few minutes later, or if a man there was always an agenda for anyone who was kind. So for us,
That's all you knew was
like,
like, there's a motive, there's a motive, there's a motive.
absolutely. So kindness meant danger. It wasn't anything to do like, wow, someone is nice. No, it was run for your life. Someone is kind today. So that's what I was used to. But when this man came, when I saw him, he was wearing glasses and khakis. I thought, this one I can steal from him because he can afford food. So I followed him as he was buying food. And as soon as he bought bananas, a bunch of bananas, I was like, okay, where's your car? I'll carry them. And he said, no, put it down, please. So I put it down. And, the next thing he said, what's your name? And that scared me. Because for all my life as a street kid, for all these years, no one had ever asked me what my name was. I was a garbage boy. I was a thief. I was the dirty boy. That's what they called me. So for him to say, what's your name? I was like, wait, you want to know my name? I'm a thief. I'm about to steal from you. I stink. I smell. That's what people know me. You want to know my real name? Do you? And that's what was going in my head. And I say, my name is Peter. And after that, he said, okay, you can help me. And so I helped him to go to his car. And as soon as I got there, before I could steal his food, he gave me something to eat. Well, actually, that didn't mean kindness. To me, I put his food down and I got that food and I ran away from him because he was kind. That was a sign my life was in danger. So the next week he comes back. This time he says, where's Peter? And he finds me, he feeds me and lets me help him. The third week, the fourth, sixth week, I count on you. What he buys when he comes. So every Monday between 5 and 7, I knew this man would come and he would call me by name. And I think for me, what attracted me wasn't the food he was giving me, but he was calling me by my name. That reminded me of who my mother was, because my mom called me Peter. So for him to say Peter, in some way, it brought a little glimpse of who my mother was. That's what I was looking forward to all week, that I was a garbage boy, a useless, a thief. But this day, this hour, someone's going to refer me as Peter and remind me of who my mom was. And so he fed me for 1 year and a half, and he called me by my name every time he came. And one day he said, Peter, if you had an opportunity to go to school, would you go to school? And I just said, you must be the stupidest man on the planet. What? I'm a thief. I would never amount to anything. There's no hope for me. Why would I go to school?
That's what you identified with, just worthlessness.
Yes, I was less of a human being, and human beings went to school. Human beings had family. Human beings had names.
That breaks my heart. I'm sorry.
I did not have that, actually. I did not have that. So for him to say, would you like to go to school? I was like, no. It was like me telling you, actually, they're sending people to the moon. Would you like to go?
Right.
Would
It
you?
was just like, no, I'm not an astronaut, Yeah, like,
But do you go to bed hoping, man, I wish I could go to the moon ever?
no,
That's how it
no.
felt for me. Go to school? Who, me? No, because it was for those who had hope, those who were loved, those who were known, those who had something to aspire for in life. I did not have that. So I said no, and he left. But next time he asked me different. He said, hey, Peter, if you go to school, there'll be food, there'll be lunch, breakfast, and dinner. That's all I had.
Right.
Food?
Right.
Sure, I will go. So for me, I went to school because he mentioned school. That's all. It wasn't anything that I wanted to be anything. It wasn't because I had clothes to wear. No, because he said there will be food. That is what took me to school. And sure enough, there was lunch when we arrived, and I waited for dinner. So in the process of waiting for the next meal, then I began to really learn how to say, if I need this meal, I'm going to behave differently. So I didn't steal in the dormitory. It was a boarding school because I wanted that food. I didn't hit the next kid because I knew if I hit him, they would not give me the food. I didn't run away. I knew if I run away, then I'm going to miss on that food. So it's amazing how this basic, simple thing in life will truly help you see the best in life that you never knew. And I think I live in the United States and I'm a foster dad. We always think, well, give them a house, they'll be better. Well, No, I had to
Right.
overcome the simplest, best need that I never had. Food. I stole it. That's what I lived for. So now that there was food at school, I was like, okay, I'm going to change my behaviors just so I can keep eating. That was all. And that's when I went to class and then I began to do well. And that changed my life. So I finished high school and then I went to university in Uganda and then I went to university in England. And that's how I came to the United States. But before I go, you asked me another question is, once he put me in school and I was there for about 4 months, he invited me to go to his family. And that's when I began to see what a father ought to be, on how he treated his family, his wife, on how he truly cared for me and loved me. And that's what really changed for me. Now I had something to dream about because I saw the example of what humanity is. Make sense?
Yes,
So
it
it
does.
wasn't something I learned from school. It was what I observed him with his family and how his kindness towards me was like, man, you're so kind, but I'm still waiting for the thing you're gonna do towards me. But
Right.
then once I saw his family, then I was like, now I see what family looks like. I see what unconditional love looks like. I see a mom that loves her kids and sees me as his own in the same way. And that's really what really made everything in life change because now I began to see the glimpse of hope.
Yeah. That's what we need. That's what helps us strive is hope. And the fact that you came from what you came from and then to, being able to see that, seeing hope in humanity, that's a powerhouse.
Right.
That is a powerhouse which birthed that mission inside of you because you came from that other side that people cannot even fathom. So I know that like again, I cannot, I won't even try to like imagine what you've been through. I- you know, I do know that I was like brought into a family when I was a single mom. I was 19 years old. And I didn't know what it was to be loved unconditionally. And so I remember fighting back. Like I just remember like I was like the queen of self-sabotage. Right. And so I just remember fighting back and them still loving me. And that's when because I was very like survival, like I won't let you in, everybody wants to hurt me. I lived on the street, so there was like even police officers would try to like kidnap me and rape me. They were married. I just was never like I had PTSD, so fight or flight. I just never felt safe. And the only time I felt safe was like in such an unsafe situation with a false safety in people because they were the only people that really cared about me, but they didn't. So I never knew the difference. Does that
Right.
make any sense?
Well, exactly. I was what I knew was danger for me. If someone called me by hit me or yelled at me or called me a bad name, I knew, okay, I can be safe with this person. But the
Yeah.
kindness, I didn't know because I had never experienced it. But even when I experienced it, it came with bad results after. So for me, I knew, well, you're going to be kind, but underneath you're about
There's
to
something bad you're gonna do. There's
yes.
something bad. There's
So
something
if
bad you're
so
gonna
if
do.
I can reject it as soon as I see it, then I'm safe on the
Yeah,
other.
I'm gonna hurt you before you hurt me. That's my motto, right? Like, and you don't know that. Like, Peter, like you don't know in your mind you're doing that until like you know what I'm saying, like I didn't in my mind my motive wasn't I'm gonna hurt you, I'm a self-sabotager. No, all I knew was pain and fear, and even then I couldn't call it a name. I didn't have a word for my behavior because of my childhood, right? Like we don't, these children, like, and that's what I want to talk about, like they don't, the things that they do, like I was a teacher. I taught a lot of some foster children that have come through the schools. You talk about food. And one of the kids that I was counseling, because I taught children with disabilities and challenges and stuff, he hid food. He
Mm,
locked it in his room. He was adopted. It was just a behavior because he was always afraid that like he wouldn't have it. So
right.
like, like it was a habit for him. I never I know for me, I never experienced that, but I did see that in others. The things that you've overcome, right? I'm sure it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy journey. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, how did your mind shift change during that time? Because I know for me, the reason I brought up my godly parents, and they both passed away recently, is because I think for me, they never changed. Like, they never changed. They never left. And
Right.
that was impactful to me, and that went with me forever. Where did that, like, seeing his family, that consistency, that really like birthed hope into you to make a difference, right? So you had passion for others and you went to school. So when did that come about? Like,
Yes. Well, for me, I think, as you said, it's a long journey. Like, it's not something that happens overnight. And also, my basic need, and to also take away the abuse that I understood, change the narrative is what really helped him. So, for example, food was the greatest thing I needed first. So if I knew there was food, then I knew how to work on not hitting someone. If I knew there was food, then I didn't have to go steal. So there are some basic needs that at my forehead that I knew if they are there, I don't have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Then once the food was there, then I was like, wait a minute. If he brought me to school, that means I must be smart somehow. Like, I must have something to do at school. So then I began to really do well in class. And the teachers would say, Peter, I would get a D and F. They were like, Peter, good job. But for me, I was like, wait a minute. Like, I am doing really well. So the more kind that I saw without people really in some way telling me how worthless I think that helped me to know if my teacher believes in me, then there has to be something I have special. Then I
oh,
went to church. I went to church that they wouldn't, I would fight, but they wouldn't kick me out, but they would still say, Peter, we love you, but you don't have to hit someone. But because they did that helped me know, like, oh, they really mean it. They care. So
yeah.
the more I saw positive without the abuse after that, I began to say, oh, they're not gonna harm me. So I am safe. The more I could hear, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. The
Yeah.
I did, the less I did, because I didn't have to be in a fight mode. I had never looked my dad in the eye. So if someone looked at me right straight in my eyes, I knew they wanted to fight. So I would get ready to just hit back. And I'm like, no, they don't want to fight me. But that mental, I had to really deal with it. Like, Peter, you're safe. You're safe. Don't hit back.
Yeah.
And
Can
the
I
more,
yeah,
go
can
ahead.
I so I read in your book about words of affirmation. And how I love how you're like, I'm safe, and how people were speaking to you. And I wrote this in my notes, you guys. Please go get the book. Please go get the book. But I wrote this. It says, from that point forward, when people spoke words of affirmation to me, I put them in the same notebook and carried it around with me when I became a father. That notebook became the guide for how I spoke to my children every single day. I made sure my children hear me say them to these words. I hope they never forget. You matter.
Mhm.
You belong. You are loved. You are seen. You are chosen. You are a gift. You are not alone. You are enough. You are heard. You are brave. You are special. You are known. How powerful. I know I make my kids say that every single morning. Every
Mm.
morning, they have words of affirmation they have to say before they go out that door.
Right. And that's what helped me to survive. When someone said, well, Peter, you mad? I'm like, really? What does that mean? And then I would go back to see what that meant. Peter, you belong. My first friends, they said, Peter, you're the bravest person we've ever met. I'm kind of thinking, what do you mean? Because they said, I can never survive on the streets for 12 hours. To survive for 5 years on the streets,
Yeah.
are brave. So they began to show me what I viewed as negative, but they began to show it to me in a negative way. And I think those are the words that I had every day that really inspired me to do better. If I got a C, then I'm like, tomorrow I'm gonna D because my teacher believes me. Then I would get an A. And that's how I excelled in school, and that's how I began to believe in people, that I could be kind to others. But too, he showed me, I think, for me, this man and his family showed me the greatest kindness. There's nothing I ever said or did that they ever retaliated towards me or used a bad word towards me, but rather they loved me unconditionally. And that even made me angry. I'm like, but why do you still love me?
It's
Why?
hard because you've always had identified as, not like less than human, like you said, and then they're treating you as human. And so that word, like even that that words of affirmation, just like you're renewing your mind.
Right.
Like you're just, I am a human. I can be loved. I am chosen. I'm loved unconditionally. I'm safe. And you're now like finding this worth in yourself. And now not just hope in humanity, but hope in you, being able for you to love you. Right. Like that's a powerhouse. And that's what you're doing for these children. And talking about children, I saw that you just celebrated a birthday.
Well,
Ryder just had a birthday.
three in one week.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, the 5th, the 7th, and the 8th. same month, 3 kids.
Hashtag busy. Did you put all the birthdays together?
Oh no, I would not. 18-year-old, a girl,
Okay.
and you can't. I'll get in
Yeah,
trouble for that.
you have like, so explain to me, because you fostered many kids, but I think you have 5 that like are yours. Like you adopted.
No, I've adopted one. I'm in the process of
Okay.
adopting the other 3.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's
Yes.
amazing. They're cute, by the way. I Instagram
Oh,
stalked you and I can't stop watching your stuff. I love social media, and I love your videos. Your latest video of like when you were doing your latest video of like a father, and when you were sharing something with the kids, I thought it was really, really cute.
right, absolutely. And so for me, when I came to United States, I think I really struggled seeing the wealth. I was like, God, how can you love people this much to have extra food, you know? But then also convicted me of Luke 12:48, who much is given, much is required. That I saw how I had been given, of all people, how I was loved, that I wanted to do something for others. So for me, when I walked in the foster care, I knew I'm single, so there's no way they're gonna allow me to be a foster parent. And I'm a male, so I had never seen a male who was a foster parent. So when I walked in, for me, I was wanting to mentor teenagers, and the social worker said, "Hey, have you ever thought of being a foster dad?" I was like, "Yes, every day, but I don't qualify." She said, "Why?" I said, "I'm single." She's like, "No, you can be." I mean, literally, I said, "Where do I
You
sign
don't
up?"
see it. Yeah, you don't see it a lot. I was talking to my husband about it. Like, but
Right. So
it's needed. It's so neat. And I love how you were going for teenagers. Like, I
yes,
love that.
nobody wants. Like everyone's like, "I don't want a teenager." I'm like, "What?" They dress themselves. They talk to you. Sometimes they are yelling. But they're talking to you. You know.
I love that. So you have teenagers and toddlers. That's the
Yes.
cute video I saw, like when a toddler holds your ball. I have a toddler at home, so I just related with that so much. It's so cute.
Yeah.
You look
She's
adorable with your
14 months.
kids.
She's 14 months. So
Yeah. So is that what your foundation is about? Like teenagers, like I Am Known Foundation?
yes, to make others known. Like I wanted to know someone made my story, my name be known. That is my job today, to make others known, especially our foster kids. But even domestic abuse, moms who are going through the same thing, because that's how they lose their kids sometimes, to make them known. So my whole job is, how can I make others known, especially teenagers? Give them a place to stay, give them a place to dream, but also help them transition to places that they are safe and loved as well. So that's what our foundation is really. And help moms too. There are moms who want to be foster parents or families, but they don't have resource. So if I can provide you with a bed and a mattress and all the beddings, then you don't have to worry. You can go do your classes, or if you get an extra kid, we can provide that for you, so you can have a place. So you don't, as a parent, I know I always worry about, where do I get a crib? Where do I get clothes? And I have a large following. So for me, I have support in an instant. I can put a need and it will be met. But not everyone is in that position. So how can I use my platform to really be a speaker for those who need help, especially our teenagers and our foster parents as well?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about foster care in general? Because there's something you wrote and I find it absolutely powerful. It's about fostering. You said this. You said some people think it takes some sort of special call from God to become a foster parent. I disagree. All it takes is knowing there is a need and knowing you can do something to meet it. If there is ever anything that I stand by, that is it. Like, you know how when people want to say in the Christian realm, they want to be like, I need to pray about it, but the Lord just didn't put it on my heart. Like, girl, go wash your toilets. Like, you don't need to pray about washing your, like, like some things, like, as just as in humanity, like, we need to do. If you can do it, right? Like if you have the means to do it, like
Yes, absolutely. I think for me, it's more of, we are not all called to be foster parents, but we're
no.
all called to do something,
Yes.
to do something. Is it that you make money, but you can help those who need resources?
Right.
Is it that even mentoring, like, trust me, for a teenager girl who can have someone have a meal for 1 hour every week would mean the world to her. Just a
Yeah.
meal, just lunch. You say, I'll pick you up and I take you for lunch every
Yeah.
week. That it will change your world. Here's the other part too that I like to share and be honest. I feel, in my experience, my children have helped me more than I've helped them. I can be honest to say, sometimes we come in a place where we feel we're doing them a favor. I can say they are doing me a favor for allowing me to be their dad. I thought I was a believer. Trust me, I thought I knew the Lord and I loved him so much until I really became a foster parent. I realized how impatient I am, how unloving I was. But also, I really got to learn just how much God loves me, on how I mess up every minute, every hour, but he still loves me. And it's the same attitude I have towards my kid. I want my kids to be heard, even when they're cussing me, saying it in a way that I don't appreciate, but they are telling me how they feel. They've never been in a place where they can feel that way and be able to tell me. The behaviors I get to see, that I get to learn, they're feeling safe so they can truly let out of what they've always been feeling. So me to look at it rather, it's not about Peter, but it's about the safe place I provided for our kids, that they're able to come out with things that sometimes we don't like. They're coming with trauma. And for me, I'm the best example. When they took me in their home, I don't know, I could have stolen something or did something, but they didn't kick me out because I didn't know any other way. But because I became safe and I felt loved, I learned how to do well. I became the normal kid because they helped me learn the best way I can. They didn't say, Peter, you have to stop 1, 2, 3, 4 tomorrow before we bring you in. No. Even when I was in, they didn't say, if you do this 7 times, we'll kick you out. No. But the more they loved me, the more I learned how to behave and learned how to treat others because they showed me. And that's for me as a parent. That's what I need to do to show them. Yes, sometimes I see holes in my wall, but they're being hard. It's the only safe place that they can be able to share and tell. And as foster parents, that's what we learn. And expectations as well. My expectation is I have a safe home and a loving home for my kid to feel safe and to love them and not be judgy about towards their parents and to treat them with kindness at all times. It's easy to throw a stone at someone and say, how dare them? When I was on the streets of Kampala, I had people say, what mother will let their kids be garbage boys? But in my head, I knew, but I wish you knew what my mother was going through. You would understand. Maybe you won't judge her that way. And I want to have the same attitude towards our foster bio parents. That my job is not to judge them. My job is to provide a safe place for their kid. That when they are ready to have them, I transition to them. If not, I want to adopt 100 of them. But that is my attitude to know. But the other part, as I said, is for me, the conviction was Luke 12:48, to whom much is given, much is required. You've been given. Even you had mom and dad that loved you. That's an experience that most people will never have. But how can you use it to provide that to someone who's never had it?
Yeah.
How can you use it?
Right. Yeah.
That is the journey of being foster parents. Yes, I get to hear people say, I don't want to get attached, because I'm afraid I will not be able to do that. I'm like, okay, I get that. But the attachment is what allows you to be the best parent for a kid.
Yes.
When
Yeah.
you're attached to them, when then you're able to advocate for them.
Right.
So attachment is the safe parent. So if you were not attached, trust me, I don't think we would allow you to be a foster parent. But we do. And also I pose a question. I say, you have 10 friends. Did you ever sit with them and say, you tell me how long you're in town before I can be your friend? No,
Right.
we fall in love with people. But then 7 months, a year later, they move somewhere else. But we still love them. They still be part of our family. And that's also the same with foster care, that we get to parent them. And in the future, we get to be part of their lives. I have had 29 kids. I can tell you, 26, 23 of them, I get to hear from them once every month.
Oh,
I'm the only man or only family member from Uganda that lives here. So I don't have family, but I have extended families that I've acquired through my foster kids. So it's a joy. Like yesterday, this weekend, they're going to drop 2 of them because the mom is in town. It's like, yeah, I'm dropping the kids for 2 days. They're all yours. I'm like, yes, that I'm still a resource. The other part I would like to share is I am the most educated human being you'll ever meet. Resources, I know where to get resources, but it's unfair to think everyone has that opportunity.
right.
That some people don't know where to get it. Some people don't have that person to come alongside and say, hey, you're struggling. How can I be of help? For me, I was told how to be a parent. I'm licensed. Every year I have to go through the license on how to treat kids with trauma. Think about if your mom was in the foster care and you're 14 and you get pregnant, who taught you to be a mom? Nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody. So it's easy for us on the other side to say, how dare? But when we understand where they come from, when we understand the trouble they've gone through, we get to come alongside these moms, these dads. And for me as a dad, I have even have a different angle of looking at things. You know, we men, we get to father these children with these women, and we leave 6, 7 kids with them, and we walk away, and we are left all the responsibility with her. And when things don't work, when the stress shows up, she looks for something to numb her mind. And sometimes it's alcohol, and sometimes it's a drug.
That was my mother.
And then it takes over, and they cannot take care of the kids. And we get to blame the mom, but we never get to look, but how did she
How
get
did
it?
she get there? Yeah.
Get there. And I think as a man, I am putting myself in that position to rebuke men, say, look, you know, I'm a dad of 5, but I've learned how to be tender. I've learned how to be there for. That isn't a job. It's not a job description that only moms are to take care of the kids. No,
Amen.
it's all of us. I've had 29 kids. None of them have ever said, I wish we had a mom. No, because they all did not have a dad. And
So
they want
needed.
and they are looking for a dad. So for moms, I want to recommend you and respect you in so many ways. But men, we also need to step up in every way, shape, form.
Come on.
Be there for our kids and take part when we come from work. That we can put a jacket, a coat, and play in that play place and drink, the tea that is not tea, and build a Lego that sometimes is annoying when I step it on you, and just.
Oh, I have plenty of those.
And I think through that, the God we love will honor us. The God we love will provide for us. You're single and you're waiting to be married. Look, I'm not married. I want to get married. Actually, if you know someone, let me know.
You guys heard it from Peter.
But what I'm
You heard it.
waiting,
Whoop.
but what I'm waiting, I want to be a dad. And that's what a message I'm sharing with your single ladies. You can wait for a man, but meanwhile, you can be a mom while you're waiting. That's my mom.
Yes. So I was a single mom with 2 for years, and my motto was I'm a mom first. So everything I did surrounded my children. So if my children were sick and I was in a classroom because I used to teach, but they needed me because I have no family.
Right.
I went. I left my classroom with another teacher and I went. I was a mom first. That was my motto. And it got me through a lot. My children are going to respect it. And I love how you brought up your mom. And that in itself, Peter, and I want you to tell people your foundation, please, and tell people where they can get your book, when they can get your book, and where they can find you. I follow him on Instagram. He gives me so much value. He just talked about a toddler holding a bowl, y'all. He is the best. His kids are cute. So go follow him on Instagram and social media. But I love how, if I can touch on, it's on my heart. In a book that I wrote, you'll see a description of my mother. I believe in generational curses, right, Peter? It ended with you. And you're breaking so many other family generational curses with what you're doing in foster care. But I don't give a description of my mother in a negative way, but in a very compassionate way, because her father committed suicide. Her mother was an alcoholic. And it just went on and on and on. And she became an addict. She's still an addict. She now suffers from schizophrenia, bipolar. She's not well, but she's going to be with Jesus. He's already revealed it to me. Happy endings don't look like everybody gets sober and is a happy big family. That's not what happy endings look like. That's Hollywood. It looks differently. I love how you pointed out, like, don't judge the families. How could you? Until you understand the struggles and the mindsets and everything that they've been through, you can't judge. And I have so much compassion even to this day to my mother, and she said terrible things about me, but there's like, she didn't know love. Does that make any sense? Like, she didn't really know love, but I know that she loves me, and I know that she did her best, and she had an option to not bring me into this world, but she did.
Yes.
And so I that resonates with me, that if there's listeners out there today, and maybe it's, if I can, Peter, if you're listening and you have been hurt by your family and your parents, I pray that you ask God for compassion, for a soft heart, for humility, to understand that you don't know what they came from, and to ask God to give you a different perspective. Not that you need to be taken advantage of, but just in regard, because a hardened heart doesn't get you any further in life. Peter, if you didn't soften your heart, you would not be making the impact that you are right now for these babies. And
No,
I'm so grateful to connect with you and talk with you. And I really hope to have you back. I like I said in the beginning before we recorded, I just want to be around you, man. Like, I just adore you. You're a gem. And I'm sure you hear that 1,000 times. I know it took me so many years when people said those things to me that I was like, because I literally thought that the way I was supposed to die was to kill myself. Like, I was a mistake. Like, this enemy had a label on my head, like, she needs to be aborted. And I was supposed to be. But it took me years to be like, I am loved. What the heck? So now I give that to my children. Now you give that to your children. You are loved. You are safe. You belong. And we are just impacting, everybody, and giving God glory and building the kingdom on love, because that is what
absolutely.
did it, friends.
That's what it.
So
And I want you next time you invite me to talk about how I use my past to better myself. How I embrace my own. I think that's
yeah,
when we embrace our past and then we put it behind. We don't want it to ruin our future, and that's for me helped me to really do well, because I thought failing was giving joy to my father. Not doing well in life or not really accepting Christ as my Lord and Savior was really a failure in some way to say, yeah, Dad knew I was garbage and I'm garbage anyway. But how I said no. So I look forward to that.
yeah. Okay, Peter. So tell us about when we can get this book. Tell us about this foundation. You guys, I'm going to link it in the show notes. You better donate. Oh my gosh. It's phenomenal what he is doing. And I'm going to drop everything below, but tell us where we can get all of this stuff, Peter.
Right. Well, to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram, posted Dad Flipper, or also on Facebook, and also we have a webpage, nowimknown.com. We also have a foundation, and my foundation is more to really, if we can work, as I said, we can't all be foster parent, but if we can chip in and help, then we help more. I have so many teens that need a home to be, they need a
Yes.
place. So if you can give anything towards Now I'm Known Foundation, we get to help moms and teens as well. The book you can find in any bookstore anywhere in the world. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, you can find my book. And here's the thing too, if you buy my book, that also you're helping me so I can truly have a little glimpse of something to help my family. So it's another way that you get to support me so I can support more as well. I want to foster more, I want to adapt more, and I want to advocate for more children to have a safe and loving home.
Yeah. So, and then we're going to do that. We're going to be a part. I'm going to do that. I'm going to challenge my community to do the same thing. Peter, thank you so much for coming on Confidence Coffee. Also, to add, he did just do a bunch of birthdays. I saw Ryder's recently, but you have a bunch of wish lists for all your babies. You guys
Yes.
go fill up those wish lists. Go get those babies everything that they ever wanted. Peter, I love you so much. I'm so grateful to now be your friend, and I hope to have you back on Confidence and Coffee.
Thank you for inspiring me today. Truly a joy.
Did you enjoy that? I'd love to see you over at ashleyhannigan.com, where you can subscribe to this podcast and channel on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And while you're at it, I'd love to see the value that you found in Confidence and Coffee. So drop the ratings, the reviews in the comments. Let's subscribe to this channel and tell a friend too. Make sure you tune in next time on Confidence and Coffee.